First on the agenda is Buzz Chew.
The applicant is Greenberg Trog, 2317 Montauk Highway, Bridgehampton. At the last meeting, the board really narrowed the issues for us. We've investigated opportunities to try and improve the site plan. I think we've done that in the issues where the board wanted us to. So I'm just going to put the plan out and run through it. Okay, to orient everyone, we're here. This is County Road 39 at Flying Point Road, the Buzz Chew lot, and then the neighborhood behind. So I guess we'll start just in the corner, or we'll start, I think, with probably the biggest issue for the neighbors is we have changed the blockade here and here. We are leaving the cones, hopefully, in that area here. The blockade will look like this. And this was a picture of it this morning at the dealership. They've bought them and installed them already. We'd like to keep the cones here to allow the police easy access. We've had the security issues that we've talked about. People gain access by cutting the fence here and coming in and messing with the cars. There's a note on the site plan that shows that, you know, a big tractor trailer or a truck bringing a car cannot make that turn. So we think the cones will be effective in stopping anybody with a smaller one, and the larger trucks can't get in there. With respect to the drop-off, we've created a plan where it comes in this way. Truck will stop, unload, and come back out. That way there'll be no backing up for the parts delivery truck. The neighbors asked that we reduce the number of disabled car spaces. So there's a notation here that we've reduced that from 6 to 3. There is a note we had our engineer look at moving the dumpster. We're precluded from this front yard and this front yard. The only other opportunity would be, you know, meeting a setback, but it's actually closer to these two lots by doing this. That's the best location for it, and again, we've proposed to and have for the last several years had the garbage trucks come later. And I think those are the changes that we have. The other thing that I think the board asked us to do, and it was Chairman London, was to look at a fence that we could put up there. We have a 10-foot PVC fence, which we got a estimate for $139,600 to install, which is cost prohibitive for the dealership.
Isn't there a cedar
There is
fence,
stockade
fence, cedar stockade fence there now? What's the height of that?
I think it's 6 feet.
Okay.
6 feet. And those are proposed changes to the site plan. I have copies for everyone. I'll give to Alex.
Questions? Anyone? For me. Thank you.
Do we have do you have any updates to the CNRs that you propose?
Again, this board has to come to a decision. You put the conditions in the decision, and then I'll write the covenant and review it with you. But I need some guidance before I'm drafting a covenant.
So would you like us to review the physical site plan, come back with proposed language for the CNRs?
Make a decision. I mean, I know that this first time you're seeing it, so you're going to need some time with it. We know we've got to come back, but it's hot off the presses. But then in a decision, we condition it on the particular changes to it and redraft it.
Any questions? Board members?
The neighbors. You met with the neighbors many times, I think.
Individually,
Individually, separately, groups, the fellows, the head of the
yes,
homeowners association,
and
everything.
we've spoken on the phone.
And have,
And it's
just for the information, is there a recent meeting with the
No.
interesting people
No.
considered to this plan with detail?
No.
I mean, this has been ongoing. It's every,
It has been
Every month.
ongoing. Buzz Chew themselves have met with the neighbors.
okay.
I have met with neighbors and their then council,
Okay.
but there hasn't been a recent meeting. And we really weren't ready for one. This was done today. It's finished today.
Okay.
I have a couple questions if nobody else does. So the parts truck comes in at the, and drops off in front of the building, correct?
Right, it's gonna be left at the porte cochere here.
Okay. What happens to after hours delivery of
Not
disabled
allowed.
disabled
Disabled,
vehicles?
they come in here.
So they pull in that same entrance that the parts truck comes in, drop off the vehicle.
And yeah, they do have to back
They
it
do have
in.
to back up.
There's no way to avoid that.
Yeah. Okay. And then the dumpster you're proposing to leave back there in the corner, right, where it is?
Yeah, where it
But
is.
didn't you say earlier that 10 a.m. they won't pick up before?
Right,
10?
correct. Yes,
Okay.
and we'll put that in the covenant.
Yep,
There'll be no
okay.
Changes to the covenant.
Okay, good, thank you. I believe the public hearing is still open on this, right? So we could, if there are other comments, we can.
Correct.
We can hear those. Any other people like to comment on the Buzz Chew application?
Good afternoon. John Scagnelli, 8 Carriage Lane. As you know, you've had several pieces of correspondence from me. I'd like to offer just a few rhetorical thoughts as you consider the application. What are the consequences of installing charging stations before planning board application and approval? How will access to only Buzz Chew customers and only during permitted business hours be controlled? Will this inevitably turn into yet another trust us situation only to be followed by yet more disappointment? Why are the cones and barriers placed halfway to the rear of the property on the easterly side? I would say it's more for the convenience of the dealership than out of consideration for the neighbors keeping that barrier all the way to the front, as is done on the other side. Does it demonstrate a genuine concern for neighbors? What are the consequences of completely clearing an entire southerly lot without proper permits or village knowledge of virtually all vegetation, opening up Dune's neighbors' line of sight to North Highway, as well as removing sound blockage, thereby increasing noise? We've made several attempts to sit down and talk about some of these things. They've been rejected over the course of the last several months. David is correct. There have been a number of meetings with Brian and his sister and with David and the council we retained initially, but nothing recently to try to work out accommodations. One such accommodation, I wonder, with that cleared southerly lot that apparently belongs to Buzz Chew, are there opportunities to move the dumpster into that property and closer to the North Highway, away from the neighbors' windows and not impeding the front of the dealership and the side of the dealership? That's just one example. Where and when does the village validate the effectiveness of any expanded controls and restrictions, especially in light of the failures of existing restrictions? How can the village consider any amendment to the existing special exception and covenant with so many demonstrated and reported failures? In essence, evidence over nearly 2 years suggests that the off-hour violations cannot be sufficiently controlled by simple letter writing and management requests. Almost done. These are just a few reasons why I encourage the village to resist and reject any and all modifications to the existing special exception and covenants until such time as impacts are thoroughly outlined and controls proposed with a period of demonstrated effectiveness. You're obviously able to rule on any change not limited to the special exception, but I certainly encourage the village to do the right thing, reject all aspects of this application at this time, and seek to consider a more comprehensive proposal with more effective controls in the future once we've got a chance to talk about mutual ideas and concerns around this. Those are the thoughts. Thank you very much for your time.
Hopefully quickly. The reason the barriers are located there is so we can bring the disabled cars and have space to maneuver them to put them in. There's no ill intent. The clearing on the southerly lot has nothing to do with this application, right? Separate application, separate property, can't be considered. Moving the dumpster to that, there's no primary use there. I wonder if we could even do it, but we'd certainly have to go through a site plan process to do that. You know, there have been meetings. After the last meeting, I was approached by one of the homeowners who said, "Would you meet with us?" And I said, "Absolutely, call me, and I'm available. We have some ideas, and I'd be happy to give them to you." They never reached out, and it just, you know, one of the things that I think is going on here and is creating an issue is that Buzz Chew is being blamed for the ills of 39 by the neighborhood association. The last 9 complaints, and I've submitted them to you, have been unfounded. The slamming of some tailgate that was recounted at the last hearing was the garbage across the street at one of those auto dealerships. I really believe Buzz Chew is pretty quiet at night. They're not bringing the trucks in. Every once in a while, and I don't think it happens often, they bring the disabled car. That's the only thing that's going on, but they're getting blamed for everything that's happening. I've been there at night when it's quiet and you can hear everything that's going on in the neighborhood. And I think that's the challenge, that the neighborhood association can't do anything about the businesses across the street, because that's the town, right? This is the one place where there's jurisdiction in the village, and I think we're getting blamed for the ills of the neighborhood.
Could you respond to the comment, if I heard it correctly, about clearing of landscaping and
That's on the other lot.
that?
That's on the southerly lot. That's not a part of this application, and the village has addressed it with us, and we're in justice court dealing with it.
All right. So, all right, that's clear. Yep. Anyone else? Thank you. Yep, please.
Hi, my name is Lori Ninwright. Thank you for hearing me. I'm a resident in the Dunes, Southampton Village. I stand before you today to ask you to please not change any conditions of the special exception given and granted to Buzz Chew in 2000. My plea underscores the need for accountability and adherence to the agreement set forth the special use permit when it was originally presented to them. It's apparent that the homeowners' Dunes residents are deeply affected by the ongoing disruptions, violations by Buzz Chew, and we are and continue to advocate for the protection of our rights and quality of life. Our suggestions presented to the board for finding alternative solutions for issues like overnight deliveries and relocating the dumpster, which seems to be a challenge. Sorry. I just want to read so that I stay clear. And our willingness to compromise while still advocating for the protection of our residents' rights and well-being. I would ask each and every one of you, if the situation were reversed and you were standing here today, I believe you would be advocating for your property as well. I do not believe for 1 minute that any of you would put up with cars being delivered at all hours of the night and constant banging 2, 3, or 4 o'clock in the morning, which you have heard on recordings and videos. I have videos at home from what Mr. Gilmartin just said. I have actually, I get in my car sometimes and I go just to prove that it is on Buzz Chew's lot. So anything that is being questioned, I can show you a video. It's essential for all of us to carefully consider the testimonies, evidence presented by the residents when making decisions about permits and land use. Our voices, along with the numerous letters of support from homeowners, from fellow homeowners, serve as a crucial reminder of the importance of community and well-being and the need for responsible, considerate business practices. It is with this sentiment that I continue to stand here before you and ask you please to deny any requests by Buzz2 outside the original scope of the permit of 2000. We have been victims for years and years, and we need to ensure that regulatory decisions prioritize well-being of the Dunes community. Before Buzz2, we were here first. They came in second. If I can just respond.
Chair, would you like to give additional time?
3 minutes are
Is
up.
up.
I'll give you 30 seconds. Okay.
Okay. Came in and saw the possibility of moving the dumpster. That wouldn't be an option to move it closer to my home. So just want to put that on the record. And I also just want to say this, that any improvements that Brian and Marilyn Chu have been making, that's called compliance. That's all. It's not a pat on the back. They're just being compliant. So I don't think any accolades need to be given for them doing the right thing. And I think that that's all really I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to comment on this application? Okay, so the public hearing is still open on this. I'm going to roll, we'll make a motion to roll, leave it open,
Correct, so we can review.
digest this, review it, and roll this to the next meeting, June 17th, where I would expect to bring it to a vote. Can I have a motion to adjourn this to the next meeting, please?
Motion. Your motion.
Thank you. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, okay. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is 54 Main Street. I have a conflict on this one, so I'm going to recuse myself from this. But in order to do that, we're going to put this at the end of the agenda because I have to step out for that. So we'll do this at the very end of the meeting. So I'm not in and out. I just have to step out once. So we'll skip over this for now, put that at the ends, and move on to 560 Wickapog.
If I may, John Bennett for the applicant. We're primarily, hopefully, here just to listen to you, but I just want to make sure that everyone got received my June 3rd letter.
So before you start, John, the hearing is closed on this.
That's for the public.
I understand. Well, I'm happy to listen for 3 minutes, okay?
No, I'm the applicant. There's no 3-minute bar. That's for the public.
If you have something new to say, what are we going to do with what was recently submitted?
So, as Mr. Bennett did indicate, a letter was sent out earlier today around 2 p.m. I have not had a chance to review it. I can do so when we have adequate time, but it did appear this afternoon.
All right. So the floor is yours, John.
What are we doing with this application? Mr. Fowler's here with his wife. Mr. Warren is here. You voted on a sketch plan approval 3 meetings ago? 2 meetings ago, Rich, was it? And we don't have it. Someone's missing what sketch plan approval is all about. And as I say in my letter, this is the code definition of sketch plan approval. It's to enable the subdivider to save time and expense in reaching a general agreement with the planning board as to form, layout, and objectives. Does anybody have an objection to the layout of the lots or the ag reserve? I'm entitled to know that. It doesn't appear that there has been any objection to that. So I'm entitled to know that.
I think we're going to discuss that when you're finished.
Okay. So you're going to discuss the proposed pending resolution for the sketch plan
Yeah.
approval.
Can
Okay,
you
that's fine.
also refresh my memory, because I do not remember voting on a sketch plan. I know we took a straw poll. Yeah, but I do not
Yep.
believe that we voted on a sketch plan. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay.
That's to my understanding, and we did have just,
I think I surveyed the board to
Mhm.
see if we had a consensus so we could move this forward.
That was over a month ago.
I was there, I remember that. So what I would like to do is open it up to the board members, ask questions, we can discuss this. I think that I'm sensitive to the fact that this has been in front of the board for a very long time. And the code, the village code is pretty specific on sketch plans, right? It's a layout. It's supposed to provide a general consensus.
I have the language here,
Of the board. Would you
which
like
I
to
believe
read-
Mr. Bennett just
Can you
recited,
read
but
that
I can give it
language?
again. Section 97.7 purpose. The sketch plan shall be required to enable the subdivider to save time and expense in reaching a general agreement with the planning board as to the form, layout, and objectives of the subdivision regulations.
Yes, thank you. So I think that's pretty clear. We've had a lot of discussion, a lot of back and forth on exactly what this should look like. And I think there haven't been any new issues that have come up in the last meeting or two. So I think all the issues are out on the table, right? All the key points for board members are out on the table. What I'd like to do is kind of review at a high level what those issues are, and survey the board to see if they have any questions, and get their temperature on each of the key points that we've been discussing up to now. With respect to the site plan, or the sketch plan, sorry, that we've seen, I think that I'm aware that everyone is comfortable with the overall layout. That is, the number of lots, the size of the lots, the setbacks included on that sketch plan, the size of the ag reserve, the positioning of the ag reserve. Anybody feel differently, that they'd like to see something else on that one? Okay,
That's fine.
so if we can check that
Everyone
box.
indicating an affirmative response.
Yes, can you raise your hand if you're comfortable with the sketch plan that we've
What
seen?
you just outlined is fine.
Raise your hand. Okay, thank you. We've said from the very beginning that we're all trying to do what's best for the village. We're all good citizens here. We've got to figure out a way to provide access to the pond should it need to be cleaned or addressed, right? And that's still something that the board, I believe, is very important to each of the 5 board members. Can you raise your hand if that is an important issue to you and you'd like to see a solution to that works for everyone?
I'm raising half a hand as it is a solution that isn't necessarily resident with the applicant. There's several solutions and that they're being worked on, and there are lots of wisdom to be applied.
Yes.
A distraction about our constitutional rights and enforcing the applicant to do it is to me another tail being wagged for the dog. So it will be solved. It has to be solved for the F&C trustees. Has to be solved for the village trustees. These lakes are a problem, and it will be solved. And it's being worked on now, to my knowledge.
Yeah, and I know everyone's working very diligently on this issue, and we're approaching it, or that group is approaching it from a couple different directions. You know, we're optimistic that one of those directions is going to be a solution that works for everyone. But through the show of hands, I think it's an important issue for the board going forward. The next issue is that west entrance. There's been some discussion about closing that west entrance. I think that the best way to articulate the west entrance issue is the board views that as a safety concern, right? So it should either be closed or the applicant should come back with a alternative design that addresses the aesthetic and the safety issues. Everyone agree with that point? Raise your hand. Okay, thank you. The next issue I believe that we've talked about is the viewscape, or that area between the barns and Wickapog Road, and having some kind of landscape plan. The applicant has shown us some plans that are close, not quite there, but is everyone on board with having the applicant provide some landscaping plan there that is satisfactory to the board? Raise your hand if you'd like to see that. Thank you.
Adverb ultimately.
Okay, okay. The next issue is the viewscape looking into the agricultural component of the reserve. So that's south of the driveway off of Fowler Street. That is not the yard there, but the area south of that, so that as you're driving down Fowler Street, and you look to your left, just going south on Fowler toward the beach, you look to your left, you can see all the nursery stock that's being grown there. But if you look to your right, you're looking at privet. And I think a number of board members have suggested that privet could be taken down so that you have the same view on the right side as you currently do on the left side. Everybody raise your hand if that's something that you'd like to see. Okay. And then the last issue, which has been the difficult one, is that we will have an ag reserve. That ag reserve has been shown on the sketch plan. I think that we've gotten tripped up a little bit by getting very deep into the details at a sketch plan, preliminary sketch plan stage of a three-step process. And, you know, this is supposed to be a high-level general consensus. So I think that, you know, I'd like to redirect our efforts on this so that the ag reserve that we would approve at the sketch plan stage would be limited to a conservation easement or an agricultural easement for the proposed 25% of the property, which is approximately 310,000 square feet. And that ag reserve, the details of which we will address as we get to the next stage of the process.
An agreement shall be reached.
An agreement shall be reached. Thank you. I'd like to survey each board member to see if there are any points, any specifics beyond just that general ag reserve statement that I just made that they'd like to see at the sketch plan stage, sketch plan approval stage. I'm going to start on my right with Debbie. Is there anything else specifically that you need now to move forward towards a vote on a preliminary sketch plan? Thank you. Amanda, anything?
I'm just curious if you were talking about as well the covenants and restrictions that will ultimately be included. We have a general sense of what we'd like to see in those. But with respect to the statement, this is the ag easement, this is the 25%, this is the position, and it will be, that will, whatever language.
At the preliminary stage.
What you said, that will be agreed to.
An agreement shall be reached.
We will have covenants and restrictions.
Yes.
And those are to be determined. We've sort of mapped them out, but I want to make sure that will be part of the agreement, obviously.
Covenants and restrictions
But from the
will be
bird's eye
part of
view,
that. Right.
this is fine. I
Covenants,
just want to make sure that, you
Yeah,
know, just
yeah.
like we're talking about the easement will be determined, the covenant restrictions will be determined.
Absolutely.
Yes,
And,
I'm fine with that.
Absolutely.
fine
And
with that.
most of those are out on the table.
They
So
are.
Everyone's
They are.
heard them, so
They are.
there shouldn't be any surprises.
Mhm.
But it's all to be
Mhm.
determined as we move towards step 2, a preliminary
plat.
plat. Mr. McFarland, anything else?
As long as it's agreed, I believe it is by the party of the applicant and most of its advisors, if not all. It is a separate step. It is not this approval as much as we can to get going with the lots and everything. Doesn't control the next step. There's work to be done and knowledge to be transferred. The main reason being that the Fowler family are screwed. They're sort of the last gas before the turnpike. This is the last sort of farming. It's sort of the tail wagging the dog, and so it just has to be done for the village, not for the town. It's just stuck in the village and the barns and everything else. It's a degree of difficulty is not what we want, but we have to discharge for the larger, the plan and the village. So it's the context. This is not the approval of that in principle. The details are very important, the second step.
Understood. So at this point, in order to move from, to a preliminary sketch plan approval, other than a high level, the content of the conservation agreement and agriculture easement that I read being the size and in the position that stated, you're fine. You don't need to see any other detail. Thank you, Mr. Dye.
Nothing more, Mr. Chairman.
I think those were all the points at a high level. I didn't miss anything, right, John? Right?
You guys take a look.
I think that was everything.
2 steps.
Yep, that was everything with the exception, which is required anyway. Applicant shall submit the long EAF.
All right. So what I'd like to propose then is that what we just discussed is put into a resolution that circulates this week, and we adjourn this to a vote on the 17th based on what we just discussed. Okay?
If I may, it would be exceedingly helpful if that resolution, unlike what happened the last time, is available. It's not a difficult resolution to draft. Is available at least a week before the meeting.
Yeah, I think I was pretty clear. We're going to have it. Can you get it?
Chairman,
done
would you
this
like
week?
me to direct me to
Yeah.
release it to applicant's counsel?
Yeah, we can
Understood.
release that
Absolutely.
as soon as we're ready to, and the game plan is to have that to you by the end of the week.
And then everyone agrees that this is a public benefit in terms of this pond issue, correct? It's a public benefit you're trying to solve. To
I
get
don't-
access to the
yes.
pond.
You're almost as expert as I might be
Mhm.
on the F&C trustees and ponds.
Yeah.
It is an issue of great sophistication. With the law of 1815 and everything, it's really complicated, but the F&C trustees, I believe, as practiced through the village, needs to have access to the pond.
For a public benefit.
I don't know if we would
We're just-
couch it in words
I'll
of
say-
public
Let him
benefit.
finish. He's a
Trustee.
Yale Law School
I'll say
graduate.
trustee benefit,
Okay.
And this is the practice under the laws dealing with the Dongan F&C, I call them the F&C.
Yeah, I understand.
Freeholder and commonalty
I understand.
trustees.
Okay.
What exists now is a pipe, as you said eloquently, 4 times last meeting, a pipe to fill the pond up from the top. We have to deal with it. All the community have to deal with the F&C trustees to get access to the pond if needed for all the issues that relate to ponds.
Okay.
Everything from pollution to filling up, that's the issue.
And I did hear you say that there were other avenues being explored by the
They are,
village.
to my knowledge, to my direct knowledge, it's none of my business, it's none of the planning board's business. There are several people working on several avenues.
Okay.
Right. I want to respond to that. I don't think we're expert enough to know an answer to your question.
Okay.
Yet, right. So I don't think that's true.
So there are members on this board with law degrees, and you have a counsel with a law degree. I want you all to read my letter of June 3rd in terms of this access issue. And I've done something which I hope you'll be very happy with that I've done.
Thank you, John.
I've given all, with a page on it, a copy of probably the most amazing document that's ever been drafted, other than the Bible, in human hands. It is the Constitution of the United States. And if you look at page, I've been kind enough to point you to the right page, which is page 44, Amendment 5. I've underlined it. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Court of Appeals, Supreme Court of the United States, case written by Justice Marshall, hardly someone who one would consider a property rights conservative. It's very interesting, that case, because, you look, you keep looking. for these cases, and ultimately you find them. And what you will find is in that case, which is cited in my decision, and rather in my case, here the government's attempt to create a public right of access to the improved pond goes so far beyond ordinary regulation or improvement as to amount to a taking. In this case, we hold that the right to exclude, so universally held to be a fundamental element of the property right, falls within this category of interest that the government cannot take without compensation. Rather, the imposition of the easement, and it was an easement, in this context will result in an actual physical invasion of private property. And even if the government physically invades only an easement in property, it must nevertheless pay for compensation. What you're trying to do is to take a public concern, and I'm not critical of that, but it's not your job. If the trustees of the village want to look at this, they should. We've talked about other ways to go about this. If the trustees of the freeholders and commonality of the town, which includes the village, want to look at this, they should. But this is not, there is no nexus between what's being proposed here. You don't even have to get to the constitutional issue. That Mackle versus White case shows you that. And if you reread the case the council provide for you, you'll see that it has absolutely no applicability here, because in that case, it actually, what it does is it supports our position, because one of the things that the Court of Appeals was very, very, very strident about in allowing the covenants that were required in there without compensation was the property owner retained the right to exclude third persons. So it's literally like I'm holding up a placard that's painted blue, and you folks are saying it's red. That's how crystal clear it is. You can't, as a result of a condition, a proposed condition in a subdivision, require my client to get public access, which is not to say that you're not, I'm not criticizing you for being concerned about the issue. Excuse me? I'm not criticizing you for being concerned about the issue, but really the people that should be concerned about the issue are the trustees of the village, the mayor and the trustees of the village, and the trustees of the commonalty and freeholders of the town, who actually are probably the owners of the bottom, despite the fact that the tax map says that the village is the owners. Probably the trustees. We went to the real property tax services, and we couldn't find any chain of title going back to anybody but the trustees. It just seemed to arrive back in the early 80s as shown as ownership by the village, but only because Real Property Tax Service just said that. But that's irrelevant. Agawam is owned by the trustees. I don't know if you folks know that, but Lake Agawam is owned by the trustees. Well, Alan, you know that. Lake Agawam is owned by the trustees of the commonalties and freeholder, and the village and the trustees have always had a very good relationship about that. And so are the other ponds. But I ask you to take a look at that, and I ask you to get me the resolution as quickly as possible so we can maybe work through these things before in a concise matter. But I thank you for acknowledging that from a lot layout point of view and from the size and location of the open space, the proposal works. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Yes.
May I ask Mr. Bennett a question?
Sir.
It seems like this would have been asked and answered, but I'm going to ask, do you know, is the pond polluted? Has it been tested?
It's irrelevant.
Do we know? No, do you know?
It's irrelevant.
To this discussion.
It's irrelevant.
There's so many people thinking about it. I wondered if it had ever been done. I thought perhaps with
Yeah,
these,
no.
I think that'd be a hard thing to quantify.
no, just
even.
has it been tested?
And again,
Do we have any data? Not that that's, you're talking about a separate thing, but I was just
the other,
wondering if we were to.
there
do
have been
that.
6 subdivisions surrounding this pond, and the board has never tried to demand access. 6 different subdivisions, and again, it's because everybody knew you couldn't do that. The problematic thing is that there probably is a much easier way to get access, because the Fowler family down at the southerly end of Fowler Street on the west side of Fowler Street actually dedicated 2 parcels to the village as well as the road, and there's a short run to there. I would suggest that the that the board, in an advisory manner, suggests to the trustees that they look into that and approach that. It would be much, much, much easier. I understand that the concept
believe
is
it
to
is
try to
being
get an
looked into.
algae harvester down there. You're not going to get that down there on a 15-foot access point. It's just really, it's really trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. Plus, you have this incredible issue with it. But thanks very much. And again, I want you to understand that I'm not being critical of your concern. It's just whether or not your attempt to get there is legitimate. I don't think it's your problem. I don't think the state subdivision regulations and the village subdivision regulations is clear. You don't have to believe me. I gave you the case law. You don't have the ability to condition it on that. But anyway, we'll leave it in your hands.
Thank you, John. We're trying to move this forward because it has been here a while.
And I also
Appreciate, we're going to get a resolution drafted
Yeah.
as soon as we can and get it circulated to you as quickly as we can. The goal is to have it done by the end of the week. I hope we can stick to that deadline, and then we'll put this to a vote on our June 17th meeting. Do I need to make a motion to do that?
Motion to adjourn at the 17th.
Yeah, motion to, before we do that motion, thank you for this. I had one. My father-in-law wanted it. I gave it to him. I'm glad I got it. I'm glad I got one back.
We appreciate the gesture, we do.
I think it's
I
heritage.
don't necessarily
Really?
agree with,
If you want 50 of them, I was, for decades, building the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia. You want them? I'll give you 50. I read them all the time. It's irrelevant.
so,
I hope you did all that for free.
so there, yeah. So there are at least 3 up here with legal degrees. I did not. I do not have one.
Read 'em.
I have researched this. I don't necessarily agree with your case law on
gotta
this,
give me- you
but
gotta
I'm
give
going to
me the-
yield. I appreciate the argument. Yeah, but I'm going to yield to an expert in land use law here. But thank you. We're going to try and move this along.
The only thing I asked you is it's easy to say I disagree. What's not easy is to get authority. So if you have
Yeah.
some authority,
Yeah.
I'll listen to it, of course. Thank you.
I'm
Thank you very
sure
much.
you will. Motion to adjourn
Till 17.
till the 17th.
17.
Second.
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thanks very much. Thanks, Rich.
I don't want to say it.
Next on the agenda is Wool Hill LLC, 783 Hill Street. Anyone here for that?
This is the house at the corner.
You know what? I think it's probably the best thing to do on this because Mr. McLaughlin passed away. The estate is being handled. Why don't we just withdraw it without prejudice
Good
as
idea.
opposed to carrying it on?
Okay,
You know,
that's fine.
yeah.
That's
You
good.
just need a motion for that.
So, motion to withdraw this application without prejudice.
No, without prejudice.
Second? All in favor? Aye.
Thanks.
So Connemara, we're going to adjourn to the July 1st?
Thank you.
Okay, motion to adjourn Connemara Corp. to July 1st. Second? All in favor? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And just by way of explanation, I'm still waiting for the building inspector's review on that. That's what's holding it up, whether or not I have to go to the zoning board. So I will do it gingerly request and beg.
So-
That's usually
so-
what I do with the building inspector.
The question before the building inspector is whether this is a zoning board issue or a
Yes.
planning board issue.
Oh, no, I'd still have to go, I have to go here because I'm changing the lot
Yeah.
lines. The question is whether I have to go to the zoning board as well.
Okay.
I think it turns on whether or not the revised definition of a flag lot applies only to a flag lot that is to be created as opposed to an existing flag lot.
Got it.
So
Okay.
that's all. I'm
All right.
just trying to.
So we'll see you on July 1st on this one.
Hopefully that'll be
Eight 865 Merrick Holdings, 22 Windmill Lane.
I think you should have received an adjournment letter for this one. Liz Vale, Greenberg, Traurig, 2317 Montauk Highway. We had sent in an adjournment letter earlier today
I don't think we got
Oh,
it.
because it's pending at ZBA.
okay.
So while the matter's open before ZBA, it's best to pursue
Yeah.
that and then come back to the board once that's resolved.
Yeah, well,
Please.
just a
Thank
motion
you.
to, Liz,
Yes.
do you want to adjourn this to the 17th or to?
Yes, the second
at
meeting
the-
would be better.
the Next
Yep.
meeting.
The
Okay.
17th, thank you.
Yeah.
Second meeting of this month or? The next month.
July 17th.
Oh, July
July, the second
17th.
meeting in July would be great.
That would be.
July.
the date.
Yes, I think because it's pending
15.
before ZBA.
15th, yeah.
Okay, so,
1/5/15.
motion to adjourn, 22 Windmill Lane, which is 865 Merrick Holdings, to the, July 15th meeting.
Thank you.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Brian Kelly, 2030 County Road 39A.
I don't believe we have an adjournment request on this, but I know they're preparing their ZBA application.
ZBA.
They also have to go to the zoning board before they can get assessed.
So why don't we roll this one to mid-July? Because that's going to be a while, right? The
Yeah,
ZBA.
they don't have a date yet. for zoning board.
Okay. Motion to adjourn Brian Kelly to also to the July 15th meeting. Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
74 White Street.
I did receive a correspondence from the applicant that they're working with the health department to move this along. So they asked that it be carried on to the next meeting.
So they want to go to the 17th of June.
17,
They think they're going to be ready by then.
I believe he said to the next meeting.
Okay.
17 June.
17, motion to adjourn 74 White Street to June 17th meeting.
Yep.
Second, thank you, Debbie. All in favor?
Aye.
36 Windmill Lane,
Shippies.
Shippies.
Hi, I'm Lisa Zaloga. I'm the architect for Shippies. I believe that John Betts is on Zoom. He unfortunately is at the airport, and so he would like to speak to you first. So hopefully we can let him in.
Some of your letter writers got bored and left.
It's okay. Maybe they were hungry.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, hello?
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
Mm-hmm.
So far,
Yes,
so
we
good.
can.
Okay, super. Super. Well, I'll try to be very brief. Appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening. And I just wanted to touch base on a couple of things. Lisa's going to carry the ball as she usually does during our sessions. But good evening, Chairman London and the planning board members. My name's John Betts. If there's somebody from the public who haven't had an opportunity to meet, owner of Shippies, and we're here to follow up on a planning meeting we had with the board about a month and a half ago, I believe. And we had great guidance and lots of thoughts from Nelson Pope and Warhouse, and hopefully, I believe we have a complete application in front of all of the team today, and so I wanted to speak to that. And secondly, I want to put this in perspective for everybody. Shippies underwent an extensive remodel, took about a year to do. The planning board was part of that process when we began that, as was the ARB. And I want to thank you for all the guidance you provided us at that point. What we have in front of you, and I think I wanted to just clarify something. We have two more phases of Shippies coming. What we have in front of you right now, we're calling Shippies 2.0, and that's really about the functionality of the restaurant. It's about expansion of the restaurant's kitchen and some bathrooms and some things that make it more comfortable and easy for our guests to use and our employees to be able to serve the public. And I think when we talked before with this board, because I've given the long-term vision, I think we've had some confusion, probably my fault, because we also talked enthusiastically about the end product. And so what we're talking about today, according to the bylaws and everything, does not require us to get into the more in-depth conversation that we need to have and that we will have with you guys very soon. And by that, I mean additional parking or anything to do with the septic system. We are already in the midst of those conversations with, at least on the septic side, with the consultants that Lisa has brought in and talking about them with Suffolk County. So we can come back to you with a complete discussion about phase 3. We have some very small parking adjustments we've made as part of Shippey's 2.0, and that's really, it could be noticed on the site plan. So I really want to say that we're going to be back to talk to you about the closing of the beer garden and that type of thing, which you're all aware of. You've seen the whole project. But right now we're focused on making ourselves functional for the summer season. And I want to start by thanking Chairman London, because you're the guy that put something inside my head. And it really comes down to, I hope you're all in receipt of the letter that I wrote to Chairman London last week. I think you remember the last time we had a meeting, there was some discussion about the need for public notification and additional hearing, and that it could be waived, but it's never been done. So I thought that if we had a complete submission, we felt good about the submission. If I could do some things to help give you a little enthusiasm from the public and the community, that you might consider doing that. I'm respectfully asking for us to potentially get a waiver on the public notification and allow us to get things done very early into the project so we can make the place much more functional. Lisa will go into the details. But I wanted to share with you, we have communicated, I took ads out in the Southampton Press from West Hampton to Montauk for 3 weeks. We have communicated with our guests. There's a survey that I sent Mark a copy of that's in that letter as well. And you know, everybody's on board. We're trying to make this thing work for us. And we haven't had any really negative feedback at all. In fact, I don't think one single comment that I've had from a negative construction standpoint. So I guess I'll leave it there. I think the other thing that made me think about this was that we did, before the ZBA, we had a 25 or 30-day posting. So we've actually been in a public awareness, I'd say, for probably over 2 months now. And so just, if we meet the screens today in terms of a complete public hearing application, I just want, I'd ask you to please consider that. And I'll turn things over to Lisa. Sorry for going on.
Hi. So I sent in, after we got back Nelson Pope and Voorhees' request for more information, we modified the survey and this, sent everything back, and I sent that back in the beginning of May. I believe that you got it, and I'm hoping that you were able to deem it complete, but I haven't heard anything back. So that would be one thing, because obviously that would be the first step in anything. The other thing I would just say is with regard to the notifications and something that was in my letter that I submitted back in early May, I said that we were in front of the zoning board. We now have approval from the zoning board for our addition. We've also gone in front of the trustees and gotten approval for the phase 3 portion, so they've also seen the phase 2. And I also have a letter from Rotations, Rick. So as I said, as John said, you know, he's had 3 weeks of notification. There are signs posted throughout Shippies. There are a couple of hundred people that have responded. I don't think anything has ever been noticed quite as much as this has. So if we can get to the point where we're deemed complete, we would love it if you could find a way to waive the public hearing.
Great.
Because we're looking for time, trying not to be under construction too far into the summer.
Understood. Do you want to respond?
So we received the revised site plan on May 13th. So what we didn't have previously was actually a site plan that showed what was on the site. We had floor plans and a map showing an outline of the addition. So the site plan actually now has all the zoning compliance that we look for. It has a proposed drainage area. It has a proposed parking, the loading space in the back. There are a few minor things that are missing still. There are no parking calculations shown, and I understand that that is because under the code, there's no parking change because there's no addition of any restaurant seats. However, I think it's important to document the number of parking spaces that are required for the existing plan.
It is, the parking calculations are shown right here.
How many parking spaces are required?
You're gonna ask me to read this. So it says required parking, 2 per dwelling unit, 2 units, 4 stalls. Restaurant, 1 per 3 permanent seats or floor area equivalent to 24 stalls. 1 per. That was on the survey / 200-foot radius map.
Okay.
That came from. Yeah, no, that's
missed
on
that.
that's
Okay.
on there as again, it's all existing, pre-existing, non-conforming, but it is on
How
there.
many total parking spaces are required?
I have to do math then. 4, 24, 28, 38, 42, 52, 53?
Okay.
53?
And there's no parking spaces on the lot now?
No.
Okay.
But there's no increase. It's all pre-existing, non-conforming.
And the other thing was that there is a loading space required under code now. That I don't know if that was noted in that same location.
It's the loading space in the back of the property?
Right. It would have to be, show that 1 loading space is required. It's just a minor
Yeah, he
detail to show that.
calls it out as a loading space back there.
The site plan references new lighting on the exterior doors, which aren't shown. Again, there are minor things. And no outdoor sound system is proposed.
Correct.
Just wanted to verify that that is not proposed if it's not shown. And generally, when you get a plan that shows engineering done by a separate entity, there would be a letter, or the plans would be stamped by the engineer showing the drainage calculations that have been verified and that they, acknowledge that design. So it is just written on the plan that Armis Engineering had done the drainage calculations and on the design. And that's on the Twin Forks survey. And then details regarding the proposed hedge would be helpful. Is there additional detail that can be provided?
Well, I know you said that it's not shown on the elevations, but on the rendering, the light over the door that matches the other lights is shown, and the hedge is existing, so it would stay as is.
There's another hedge that they had shown, I think, on the inside. No. Okay.
There's a hedge along Rotations Wall that's existing, and there's a hedge kind of on the front of the property and up the ramp.
To remain.
And those are all to remain, as well as they worked with the Rose Society for the roses along the north side of the building, and those won't change. Those were part of the last project.
Okay. And then typically a site plan would be named a site plan, so that's just a minor thing. There are a couple of details that, that would need to be looked at for the future, but if this is before the board as it is, it's kind of, this is first phase, and I'm just a little concerned about some of the issues going forward. If there's an addition and then there's a future action that's proposed for additional seating upstairs and additional outdoor seating, that, we're segmenting this. And that is, always a concern. So that's really my 2 cents there. So.
Could I be, let me jump in on that. We're not trying to hide anything here.
Understood.
We broke the project in half so we could get the functional aspect of things taken care of for the guests and the people during the summer. We've been pretty transparent about what we're trying to do with the beer garden. And if we do additional seating anywhere else in the restaurant, that would all come under the discussion of Suffolk County and have to meet the requirements for the village. So I just want to make sure that we're separating that. I think implicit in your comments that I'm trying to understand your last comment about us maybe having some errors that we're going to carry into the next phase. Is that what I heard, Ms.?
It's just that if there's going to be parking relief that's required in the future or an upgrade to the sanitary system, it's helpful for the planning board to consider the whole action, even though it is being split into several components.
Yeah. Well, we could do that, and we could do this for 2 years.
Yeah, I understand.
So we're trying to be we're trying to bring life back to our village. We're trying to do things to make our experience in Southampton better. And the way to do it, the easiest way and the most functional way, is to break the project. It's not about hiding anything. God knows anybody who's been in the ship, knows that we're a pretty transparent place in terms of talking about what we're doing. So please don't imply that we're trying to hide something.
No, and I wasn't, at all. I wasn't.
That was not the implication at all. I think this was more of a just making sure that it's clear to the board exactly what we're considering. And this is a little bit falls under the genie is out of the bottle, because you've been great and transparent and showed really transparent and showed us kind of a near-term plan and a long-term plan. We want to make sure it's crystal clear to the board and the public that it is an iterative process. There's a stage 3, there's a stage 4, and there are a couple of stages, right? There's this interim storage area, then
3's good for now.
and
we'll stick with 3.
we've seen other things, and we just want to be very clear what we're considering at each stage, and educate everyone that we might have to consider if you go further down the path. Other things are going to be on the table. There was no implication that you're hiding. So it's actually the opposite, right? You've shown us everything. And
Thank you.
we want to make sure that no one gets confused or information overload.
You just want us to help you to make the summer. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a seasonal
That's
place, it's a seasonal business, that's easy. We've got to do something fairly special to waive quickly, which we've been asked to do. But we just want to make sure if they're following details, which you have to do as property owner, maybe they're great, that we will get a full review if they start to affect things.
Appreciate that.
I noticed that your work was done for 2 inches of rain. I love 2 inches of rain. We had that about 4 times last week. And maybe you should do 2.5 inches. I mean, there's stuff to be done to get this right on sitting on the old drain. You're right on the wetlands.
Can I ask our
You know
council?
that.
I'm just asking, I would like to ask council, how typical is or common is it to waive or shorten the public hearing as being as requested? Is that done?
Yep, so that is 11638D4. So the caveat is that once the application is deemed complete, and that entails a completion of secret review, planning board may, at its option, require that the notice public hearing be held on said complete application, emphasis on optional. What should be known or what should be pointed out is that if we require the public hearing, then within 45 days to close of that hearing, we have to make a decision. But if we opt to not hold the public hearing within 45 days of determining completeness, then the planning board has to make their decision from that completeness determination. So to summarize it, the code does give us the optionality of holding another public hearing or not. Does that sufficiently answer.
Would you opine on it for us, given what we have and what you would ultimately want? Is that
I think
what
it's a
you would be
judgment call
looking
for the
at?
board. I mean, we've already had, this has been noticed, correct? We have not, I thought we've already had one noticed. Correct me if I'm wrong. No?
No,
So,
we put ads in the paper.
so it's sua sponte by the applicant. So
Right.
this is a judgment call by the board. If the board feels this is the kind of thing
That
that
was
is
the ad
de
in the
minimis or
paper.
that wouldn't create any sort of real public concern.
The ZBA, we also noticed for the ZBA. I don't know that there's. I don't know.
Right, it
Maybe
was
it's a
noticed for the
different-
ZBA as well.
Okay.
But I
Maybe
mean,
that's where I saw the sign.
yeah,
Okay.
you know, he and it's noticed currently for the ARB.
Understood.
You know, nobody came and had a problem with it at the zoning board. And this ad has run for 3 weeks, and it's run in all 3 Southampton presses, not just Southampton.
East of the
as-
canal, west of the canal.
Everybody knows, as well as it's online, it's on Instagram, it's posted in the bathrooms at Shippey's. It's no matter where you go, you're going to see this.
So these are all things that the board
Yeah,
can.
so look, we want to be helpful here, right? But we also can't shortcut the process with an incomplete deck of information. So can you walk, because I'm confused, exactly what you need from us and what you, sort of a timeline of what you're trying to achieve over the next X weeks?
Well, so our goal, I don't know if did you get a chance to see the plans? No.
I didn't get this. Does this come in as A?
No, they've been in for,
Oh, this, I thought you came in with something recently.
no.
Yeah, no, we've seen,
No,
we've all
so the
seen
same,
that.
the
Yeah.
same plan, it's purely, it's a small addition.
I've
To-
taken the plan in to see them. I've
Can
walked
I
through
make
it.
a comment?
You walked through the plan?
I was trying to get them to change
I'd
the
like to make a
restaurant and do
comment.
the plan
I'd like to
fast.
make a comment. I'd like to make a comment, please. So we submitted this on May 13th, right? And
yeah,
I-
May-
I,
Go ahead.
May what?
No, I was just gonna say the plan hadn't changed by May 13th. The floor plans hadn't changed. We submitted the extra survey information and site plan.
And take this feedback as a genuine comment to constructively help us, because I'm looking at everything that we do as contributing to the village in some fashion or another. So we got and perhaps it was the timing of the last review, we got the feedback from the consulting firm 3 days before the hearing, and it had a bunch of stuff in it, and you know what? I put that on us. We did not do as good a job as we could. Perhaps if we had that a week before, we would have been far more complete, but we didn't. What I heard today, and I just say, if we had submitted the thing on May 13th, these 4 or 5 things were just raised. Couldn't somebody have told us we were, a little missing there? You know what I mean? And because we would have had all that stuff cleaned up, I just feel a little funny about that.
So our proposal, purely plain and simple, is a 1 and a 2-story addition to the east and the south side of the building to house coolers, to house extra kitchen space, and to move the 3 bathrooms so that they have better access for the people wandering through. If you've been to Shippey's, you know it's very tight. When we did the original project, the building, the concrete block building, had some issues, and we ended up having to put steel inside and do some things that shrunk the space a little bit more. It's very tight. The servers have problems getting through. So the goal is to get this done as quick as possible. It has no increase in occupancy. There's nothing proposed for that. It's purely service orchestrated addition.
So are you asking us to waive a public hearing and vote on this tonight?
I am asking you to waive the public hearing and vote on this tonight and come down and help build it.
How do people feel about that? Right. I think it's exciting things are going on at Shippey's. It's, really, doing some great things to get, more restaurants in the village.
I mean,
So look, we
our
want to
hope-
be user friendly here. We want
I
to
know.
help.
Our hope is that we've noticed it more than anybody ever has, so that
Yeah.
it's not a precedent issue.
Yeah.
The neighbor that has written a letter of support, the village is on board, those are the neighbors. It's been advertised extensively. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to my comment about the 4 or 5 things that the consultant raised. If we knew those, we would have done those. I mean, they didn't sound like they're anything very serious, but we didn't know. And, the last time we did get notice, and it was helpful, it showed us where we were checking up short. And in my mind, I mean, we can knock all those things out and get them to you in the next week. That would help give you a little bit more comfort rather than forcing a vote or something.
Well, really, I
And
think,
then-
what is it? It's the calling it a site plan on this and a letter from Ed Armas. So, I mean, I could have that for you tomorrow.
Well, I'm sorry to jump in, but we also have secret review. What's our ETA on completion for secret review?
It is a small addition, so it would be considered a type 2 action.
Understood.
We do have to do referrals. We have to refer it to the fire department, the DPW, Suffolk County Planning Commission.
Because just looking at the semantics of the code section, which I know I just read out to you, the optionality of the public hearing or not kind of comes into play, to quote it, upon determination that the application is complete.
Doesn't sound like it's complete.
So to read it again, not to belabor it, but upon determination that the application is complete, comma, the planning board may, at its option, require the notice public hearing be held on said complete application. Optionality being the key word there. So
Kathy, can you give us specifically what would have to be completed for you to deem the application complete? What else do we need?
So the planning board can waive all of these if they feel that this is not needed for review of this application. If there's enough information on different plans and getting clarity from the applicant. As far as Suffolk County Planning Commission, that is something that takes 30 to 45 days. We can make a phone call and see if we can get an expedited review. And the others are village agencies that we can, that could be much shorter. So,
But I think those I's need to be dotted. Personally, I think those I's need to be dotted and those T's crossed. So what I'm willing to entertain is get as far as you can between now and June 17th, right? And hopefully most, if not all, of what's still missing has been completed and distributed to the board. And then I agree, I mean, I personally agree with you, I'm not speaking for the board, that, the public has been noticed to death on this. If you don't know what's going on at Shippies, you've been in a coma for the last year. So waiving the public hearing aspect of something I'm personally open-minded to, but I don't like shortcutting an incomplete package. That's my only issue.
So who will contact Suffolk County Planning Commission?
Sorry, before you do it, anyone disagree with that, or anyone have an alternative view that they'd like to go on the record with? Fine. Yep, everybody, okay. So, yeah, okay. So, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. So who will contact Suffolk County Planning Commission?
If the planning board determines that the application is complete at that stage, that would go through the building department.
So they have to deem it complete in order for it to go to Suffolk County Planning Commission.
I believe that's what the code says. So if with the board's permission, we can refer it to the planning commission this week.
Can you refer it to the Suffolk County Planning Commission? But we all know that there's still some things we're missing. So you're authorized to approach them, even though we'll do that. Does that require a motion, John?
Well,
Okay.
do it. Let's do that one.
Can we have a motion to authorize?
I'll move Alex to go from June 4 as fast as he can.
There you go. Second, all in favor. Okay.
So just to clarify as to what needs to be done in terms of deeming it complete, I need to make sure that the survey says it's a site plan, and you want a letter from Ed Armas saying that he did the calculations.
correct, and that the design that's shown on that plan, he acknowledges that design, because it actually says that it's designed by him.
It
So,
is. Okay. And that's it?
and there is a statement in the village code that goes on a site plan for when it is approved. That should be put on the plan as well.
And what about the SECRA and EAF?
So this is a type 2 action because it's a small addition, and that's considered, already been deemed a, not a significant environmental.
So not needed.
Not needed.
Okay. All right.
And we filled out the EAF, right?
But that's not, yeah, it's required for the application, but
Okay.
it's not,
Okay.
not triggered.
Okay.
And then health department, I'm sorry, yeah, health department is not required for this. Have you gotten any confirmation from the health department that they won't require it?
Well, they would only get triggered if we were upgrading or if we were increasing our occupancy. At the moment, we're considered grandfathered in. I mean, I've spoken to them, but I don't have anything in writing. We've also made an application for the future project. We're discussing that.
Right. So
I'm a little unclear. Does Suffolk County have oversight when we do village projects that hit a certain threshold?
Yes.
Based on their location.
Jesus Christ, I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's a department.
Wow, that's amazing.
So let's see how far you get between
I
now
can put those in
and
tomorrow.
the 17th, and see how far we get with Suffolk County, and then make a call on the 17th. But we hear you, and we saw the ads.
So
too,
are you waiving the other agencies, the fire department and that kind of stuff?
No, if that's a requirement, you need to get to them. We're not waiving.
Okay, no, because Kathy said you had the ability to waive them, so I was just
No, we're not.
No, that's their village agencies, so it's quicker.
Yeah, we'll not.
So again, are you guys going to handle them?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. The only thing we'll waive is public hearing.
Okay.
And, depending on what we hear back when you approach Suffolk County, we'll cross that bridge
Okay.
when we come to it. Everybody okay with that? You guys okay with that? Okay. So we'll make a motion to adjourn this until the June 17th meeting and pick it up again then.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Thank you.
So the next on the agenda is Hill Street Cinema and 51 Hill Street. Are we doing those together or separate?
We can do them together.
Okay.
I'm Ed Parker, 1100 Architect. All right, so nice to see everyone. We came to a pre-submission conference early this year, so maybe you have some familiarity with project or projects. There's, as noted in the agenda, two different property addresses here. One is 43 Hill Street, that's the theater. One is 51 Hill Street, that is the adjacent property. Because they're being considered, both being considered not as one project, but potentially as communicating to each other. We've trying to bundle them together. For 43 Hill Street, which is the theater, the main project, doesn't have a approved site plan. So we are here to try to obtain an approved site plan so that we can redo the exterior of that. For 43, we have seen the Architectural and Historic Review Board a couple of times and have an approval from them. And I believe that, we don't need to go to zoning. So it's really up just to get the site plan approved and understand what, if anything, we need to do for you to make that happen. And with 51 Hill Street, I think I described it before, but there's an idea that ownership for 43 might buy 51, and turn that into a restaurant that could be, make more of a campus, so to speak, with the theater. That sale is somewhat, the transaction is contingent on it being approved as a restaurant. So we have gone to the Board of Trustees. We had to get them to approve the potential for it because of its proximity to a residential district. We have gone to zoning also because we need a special exemption for a new restaurant in the village, and contingent on the approvals that we might obtain here, they will approve us. And we also, we've also submitted to the health department, and contingent on the approvals from zoning and from planning, the health department and the SEQRA, SEQRA. I think they're also basically satisfied with the proposed design there. So I think we've been through all of the approvals except for planning for both of these properties, and we're here to talk to you about them and see what you think. So I don't know if you have spent time looking at these, but I can walk through them if you like. Starting with 43, I'm just going to flip to the site plan proper. Sorry, Alex. So the existing site plan you may be familiar with has parking, it has connection to the street. It has a couple of cross-access points of connection and paved rear yard, or paved parking lot. We are proposing in the parking lot to repave it and to restripe it and to add parking spaces. We do have parking calculations that I think that we more than satisfy. I know that we more than satisfy the requirements for the interior of the building. We can go through those specifically if you like. And we're not changing much. I think we are reconfiguring a ramp to Theater 1 outside the building, but within the existing sidewalk, we're adding an awning to a relocated entry point into Theater 3. And we're repaving also in cobblestone that's porous. The areaway between the two buildings that's on the theater property side, and also adjusting it so that the ADA ramping works. I think that's the majority of the content here. There's a lighting plan, and we have submitted those light fixtures and so forth. I'm not sure if there are questions on this.
I have a question. The most recent version of the comprehensive master plan makes some suggestions with respect to the amount of landscaping that's required in a large parking lot like that. Are you aware of that, and are you compliant with the guidelines set forth in the comprehensive master plan?
We have not worked to try to comply with it because the idea was just to replace what is here, essentially. But if you want me to work on that, I will look at that.
You should think about that.
Okay.
And that was the first thing I noticed, but you should check if there are any other things that apply in the comprehensive master plan. We'll check too. I don't recall off the top of my head because it's been a week or two since I've looked at this.
The one thing that we were focused on was cross-access.
Yeah.
It was also identified by one of the consultants.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think earlier plans did not show cross-access. But I saw in the previous page that you had put the access back. So
Oh, yeah,
that's good.
I wanted to add, well, it's a point to
Right.
talk to you about. There is existing cross-access here that I think both neighbors would prefer not to have, if it's a possibility. But I wanted your opinion about the requirement or need for the cross-access here.
So, my opinion is what the comprehensive master plan tells me.
Mhm.
My opinion is,
It's a good idea.
and it strongly advocates for cross-access to reduce the amount of street traffic on Hill Street there. And the traffic there is a problem. So
Understood.
I think that's a high priority
Okay.
item for us. Just in general, I think the board, if it's in the comprehensive master plan, there has to be a good reason for us not to follow the guidelines.
Right.
Um,
I understand. And just to expand on that
Mhm.
particular point, I know that the neighbor 71 has been talking about
Stuff, yeah.
doing
Yeah.
a project. And something that was shared with us was a drawing that showed the vehicular cross-access point moving from 43, where it exists now, essentially to the rear yard of 51. I don't know if you've seen that sketch, but it was shared with us. Subsequent to that, we have engaged the neighbor in conversation about the cross-access. It doesn't actually work on 51 for grade reasons, and
Yep.
also because it's not currently paved, and we're not trying to pave it. And we don't own that property yet anyway. But so the team that I'm working with is essentially fine leaving it where it is, but wanted me to, because I know what the neighbor may want to try to change. It was just there's kind of an open question, like, we're fine keeping it where it is. Can we move forward with our site plan as it is? Because they're not actually doing a project here as of yet.
Yeah, I think, the same requirements of you would be applied to them when and if they ever come to the planning board. And the cross-access, it works for both properties, right? That makes common sense is going to be important
Okay.
to a decision.
Fundamentally, is there I'm just wondering, there's some mention of an agreement between property owners about this, about cross-access. Is that, I'm trying to ascertain whether or not, if we, let's say, this is our plan, you approve it, do we need to have agreements in place with the neighbors to have this plan approved?
That is commonly how it is done. I know many properties across the town and the village that cross-access easement agreements are recorded documents. They stay with the county clerk in Riverhead, and they run with the land, meaning that they're binding on successive owners.
Mhm. Okay. Is that something that I need to develop, or would that just be a consequence of a plan?
That would be the consequence of the plan. I could work with you once we get to that stage at acceptable cross-access easement language. That's very common. I can think off the top of my head of 3 or 4 properties across town and the village that have reciprocal cross-access easement with neighboring property owners.
Okay. All right. So I understand the point about going back to the comprehensive master plan, particularly as regards to landscape. Are there other things that are here that are of priority or objectionable or of concern that I should elaborate on?
So certainly don't want to step on the into ARB or ZBA issues if it's already been addressed there.
Mhm.
But in front of the entrance to the theater,
Yes.
what's going on with the steps there? And it's
It's
kind of pretty funky
yeah, we have been
steps there. What's the plan with that?
we have shown it to them
Yeah.
the way that it is and intend to maintain it the way that it is.
And they were fine with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have shown it as staying. In fact, for the most part, we had made a couple of potential changes that they wanted us to reel back. They're primarily concerned with keeping it essentially the way that it is.
On those steps?
The building visage, generally speaking.
Including the steps? Yep, okay.
Yeah, I mean-
That's fine. I'm just curious. Okay, we won't touch that.
I don't know if there's a line in any of the recording. I mean, and probably we did.
I'd say we see what AHRB
Yeah.
says on that one.
I just want to make sure somebody's looking at it, and as long as one of the 3 land use boards that you're in front of has it on their agenda, then we're fine with that.
Okay. We, yeah, they,
Okay,
okay.
that's all. Anybody?
Yeah,
anyone
I don't know
else
if,
have anything?
I'm not sure that they made a specific ruling on the steps. That is how we presented it to them.
Anyone else have any questions so far? Okay, sorry,
Okay.
please.
No, so I'll move on to,
Can I just ask you to run through, sorry, I'm over here.
Please.
The ramp, the area that's being modified at the front, could you just go through that detail with the board?
we're not planning on changing anything at the front, but the ramp, well, the rear of the building is the location. Oh, yes, sure, sorry. The finish of the interior finish floor is being raised by about an inch because of the finish. So we are trying to make a very small ramp, which is basically within the depth of the part of the building that is from the face of the building to where the front doors are. It's an area that's just a couple of feet long that ramps from the existing sidewalk up an inch.
So more like a lip than a ramp.
Yeah, it's just it's a long threshold, so to speak.
Okay.
It's not, and it's compliant. It's not an out of compliant situation, just to mitigate the interior floor level with the existing sidewalk.
Okay. Please continue.
Okay. Should I move on to the next property?
No more questions on this one? No? Nope. Everybody good? Yeah, please.
So this one is, I'd say, slightly more. There's a few more steps because of the septic design included. Right now, the rear yard is basically a hardscape, impervious, and the idea is to make that a more of a landscaped area that is pervious. And to install the septic system that would support the restaurant underneath that area. This lot currently doesn't have parking. It's existing non-compliant, where the new number of spaces is the same. The building inspector, chief building inspector ruled that non-compliance was okay to continue. So as I said, the only thing we asked the zoning board about was a special exemption for the use. And
Restaurant, yeah.
yeah, they, you know, the zoning approval, there is some overlap, I think, with this board. So their perspective in that meeting, based on council and so forth, was that the planning board would be the entity, the lead agency. Am I saying that right? In the review of the drainage and the septic, and if we satisfy you, then they're satisfied, so to speak, paraphrasing.
Wish they'd do it instead of us.
So I think, you know, we do have a septic design. As I said, it's also been submitted to the health department, who's reviewed it. I think from a site drainage standpoint, we're making all the surfaces impervious, because there's not really enough room left on the site for drywalls. Because we don't have vehicles on the site, we're not proposing vehicular cross-access. There's an existing pedestrian cross-access that comes from 71. Actually, it doesn't go, it goes through the theater site. We are showing it being maintained or retained. Again, our approach to the cross-access question has been just keeping what's in place because it seems like the easiest solution with the neighbor at this point. And there would be cross-access directly into the theater parking lot because it's on level. So a pedestrian could traverse easily between the parking lot and the rear yard of this building.
Okay. Questions?
And I think they told me once it'll be restaurant number 17 in the village.
It might be, yeah.
I
can't remember the number.
It's a shifty number, but
I
last
think,
time I was told that we're up to 17 restaurants in the village.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a surprising number.
the Village Business District.
So, what do we need to do on this?
So do we have, as far as completeness, Kathy, do we need secra on this? Have we ran secra already?
So for both of these, we've done secra. So for 51 Hill Street, they need it for the health department. So we did a review of the part one, prepared part two, and would recommend adoption of a neg deck. Same for 43 Hill.
Okay, so once we adopt a neg deck, then what happens next?
We have the complete application, then we can, at our option, hold the public hearing, or we can discuss it and not hold the public hearing, as I mentioned with the prior application, and within 45 days of the finding of completeness, we can make our decision.
All right, I'm inclined to do the former, I think was the adoption of the neg deck and then move it to a public hearing, right? Because I don't hear anyone have any major.
We just have to get these other approvals.
Yeah.
And we gotta do the plumbing. We gotta go, Kathy is supposed to be lead agency for the southern property to tell everybody that the planning board is lead agent for that.
Yeah.
The old car dealer, we're lead agency for what was the Mercedes dealer.
We actually don't have to do a coordinated review, but the zoning board will still use the neg deck that is adopted by this board. So.
Okay. So for the neg deck, John, it's a motion?
So just for clarity too, we're also waiting on AHRB and ZBA.
Yeah.
Okay.
And but I mean that's that's not this board. They don't have to weigh in on that. We would do Suffolk County Planning Commission, same thing. We would still do the referrals as soon as we're told to. We can do that starting tomorrow.
Okay.
For both of these applications.
Yeah, I don't see any reason not to. Doesn't sound like anyone has any issues at all with this, so no reason to not move this along expeditiously.
Thank you.
I'll move the neg.
Mr. Bennett has an objection.
Everyone should be aware, I represent the owner of 71 Hill Street, and I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of the actual situation in terms of cross-access. There is no cross-access agreement between this parcel and 71 Hill Street, either pedestrian or for vehicular. Actually, there's a lawsuit filed against the village regarding cross-access, which we've been pushing forward because there is an approval from the trustees for a resort hotel there, and it's being modified now. But we've been pushing that litigation forward in hopes to come to some sort of agreement regarding the cross-access. But there is no cross-access between 71 and the movie theater property. Indeed, there is no live agreement, as far as I'm aware of, regarding the movie theater property. There was an agreement that expired some time ago. It was agreement between the village and the prior owner of the property. The only cross-access agreement that's etched in stone on these properties is there was a zoning board of appeals application some time ago for what I call the La Caressa building, and as a result of that ZBA approval, they were able to get a cross-access agreement. So that's the only in concrete link up there. I would just caution that before anyone makes any determinations where that should go, you've got in effect a partner involved in this. So the determination is going to be this board, this applicant, and 71 Hill Street.
Understood.
So before anyone gets too far down the road on this stuff, they should be aware of all those facts. That's
Can
all.
you just indicate on the map exactly just where you're talking about?
71 Hill Street is the it's the
Mm-hmm.
Southampton
The
hotel, and then the portion to the east.
East of Radian Way.
Excuse me?
East of Radian Way.
East of Rating
So
Way.
the,
Thank
wait,
you.
the clock tower building?
Yeah, well, the clock tower building.
Well,
And the
Yeah.
Plaza
I'm just trying to,
It's really the,
It's the adjacent building to
There's
the,
no-
it's the adjacent building to the west.
I think it borders like this
Mm-hmm.
entire,
Mm-hmm.
both this side of both
It's
properties.
all the way back.
Where's the La Carissa building?
That's,
What's the La Carissa building? Where's that?
Oh, the La Caressa building's on Windmill. That's where it's,
That's the,
So that has nothing
that's
to
the
do.
beauty parlor.
well,
is
no,
that
it's
the-
actually the link from Windmill through this property,
Oh,
through the
that's-
movie theater
I got you.
property,
Right, to the
through
parking.
to the
all
hotel.
right.
But isn't there a curb cut or a break? That's where you have your finger.
That's to the
That's
fire department.
right. That's open now, or there's a chain across that?
There's,
or-
it's paved, but there's a chain across it.
Okay,
yes.
got it. Okay. All right, and that chain's been up for a couple of years?
The chain's been up because, as far as I know, the new owner of the movie theater put it up because there was a prior agreement that had expired.
Got it. Okay. All right, so,
The village and the movie theater owner had an agreement many, many years ago for cross-access and parking and stuff like that, but that expired.
understood.
Also
And I
have
think
not been
everyone's
able
got
to
to
find
sit
any
down
records
and,
on it.
everyone has to sit down and
Figure
figure out
this out.
some true coordination.
Yeah.
and just for the board's edification, so cross-access easements, I mentioned before, and I know Mr. Bennett's very well aware of it. It's very common, and planning boards are enabled to request cross-access easements, but there's nothing that demands us or that would bind us to demand or to need a cross-access easement. If we find that language of the statute here, our code, proposed traffic access ways are adequate number with grade alignment and visibility located in proper relationship with intersections, pedestrian crossings, places of public assembly, and are in conformance with overall traffic safety considerations, we can be satisfied on that basis alone.
Your predecessor board specifically requested it on 71.
Was that ever recorded? Or was
It
anything?
hasn't come to, the site plan hasn't come to fruition, but your predecessor board requested it on 71. Correct? Alex?
Correct.
Cross-access between,
71 and 43.
Right, 71 and 43. The board,
got it,
the planning board at the time felt that it should be required.
right. And presumably at some point, any expansion of the Southampton Inn would have to come in front of the
It was,
planning board as well, right?
well, 71.
71, yeah.
I don't want to bore everybody with the history, but there is an approval from the trustees on a resort hotel now.
Yep.
There was some back and forth with the ZBA, the ARB, and the planning board, and as Alex is well aware, we're trying to redesign it at this point, but there is an existing approval.
Understood.
What the applicant didn't like was the way that the cross-access was being conflated with cross-parking. That's why there's a lawsuit there. We think
Understood.
there might be some ability to require cross-access.
But
and
is
it's a
the,
sui generis thing, but cross-parking is something else.
are the trustees approving a site plan for that, or
They
is
would
the
have to go
planning?
back and they would have to
Mr.
do it as well.
Mr. Bennett, I don't know if you have it at your fingertips. You have the index number for that case? just
Wait a
so I
minute,
could-
too many
you have
people
this-
speaking.
all right.
Who does the site plan approval for?
Nika's handling
This
it.
board.
Yeah,
That's right.
not the trustees.
Oh, okay.
Trustees approved the use.
Exactly.
The trustees approve the use, but they also do approve a site plan. They do.
He's
Alex
saying
says-
something different.
Wouldn't be the first time, but they approve a site plan.
when you said they felt it should be required, so where did they leave it? The prior board felt it should be required. There's a,
There was a
they put an order?
condition.
They put a condition in, and it's still there, so that would govern us as well, wouldn't it? It still exists,
Well, there
it's
would be a
still,
new site plan application presumably.
Yes, that's true.
oh,
So the condition of approval is recorded against 71.
No, it's not. There is nothing yet. The only etched in stone site cross-access agreement is, I'm sorry. I wish I
no,
had
well,
a name
listening,
for
no,
the
listening.
La Caressa property. That's
Yeah.
the only one that has.
it has the yoga place too,
That's
up
strange.
above,
Thank you.
and the parking, and it's
Yes.
right along the parking for the movie theater.
So if I'm looking down I don't know the street, just name of the street. So the library is on the right-hand side.
Taken out of our hands.
and then
Rite
you're
Aid
going
parking lot,
downhill.
no, across the street, you're
The
like,
library.
it's like the white building, that's the utility, and then you hit La
Oh,
Plaza.
okay, understood. So you're heading west.
Gotcha.
You're heading south at that point.
South.
South,
I'll look
on the
into
right,
this.
on the
I'll-
right.
I'll-
John,
So,
I'll
John,
be
can you
advised.
just give this to John?
all right.
So he
So,
can see the
I
think
picture
that's
on there.
we
important to
still have
know.
one more.
Yeah, I
Yes.
just
But we
wanted,
need to
I just
look
wanted
at-
to
we need to
highlight the
understand.
issue, that's all.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
Thank you,
knowing
John.
the whole
And I
picture.
know Liz has been waiting patiently back there.
Mhm.
John, is, John, what do we need to do on this one?
So let me look into what Mr. Bennett mentioned, but I would say that, pending discussion, as I said, nothing binds us to look necessarily at a cross-access easement or a possibility of that, as long as we find that proposed traffic access way is adequate, that it meets its parking calculations, that it meets everything else. I'll explore what's going on with
But the
the.
board, your predecessor board said that they wanted access there. Where would the access go otherwise? I mean, no,
That's not the question
It was unknown.
that's not the question I'm asking. I'm asking, do we need to do a neg deck here so we need a motion, right?
Correct.
And
Two
then
separate motions.
two separate
For
motions.
each parcel.
So the wording of the motion would be?
A motion to task, would you like to draft it?
I just think
Do you have
it
them
should
already?
be to adopt a negative declaration for the property at 43 Hill Street
At 43.
and the property separately, same for 51 Hill Street.
Two motions.
Yep.
So a motion for a negative declaration at 43 Hill Street, please. Second? All in favor? Aye. A motion for, yes, for 51 Hill Street, for a negative declaration, second? All in favor? Okay. And then
These for you to sign, Chair?
yeah, and then we need a motion to schedule a hearing on this
Correct.
for 17th
Yeah.
We couldn't do. a
We can't.
hearing in time for the 17th because of the 21 day.
day notice. So we'll do,
The 3rd?
I believe it's July 1st.
July 1st. Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah, the 4th is, July 4th is a Thursday, right? So
Yeah, so
the
we'll do-
meeting on the 1st will occur.
so, yeah, so far.
Great.
Yeah, I'll sign that in a sec. So, motion to adjourn this to a public hearing on July 1st, our meeting at July 1st, right? Second?
Monday.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay.
And sorry, I want to move everything along, but just so I can understand it also, just one last time. About the cross-access piece. Our goal is to open the movie theater again, as soon as we can. And to do that, I think I need a site plan approved so that I can do a little bit of exterior work here. I want to understand what we have to do to get that site plan approved, particularly as it relates to the cross-access with 71, because we're willing to keep it where it is or slide it over if we need to or get rid of it. But I'm just wondering, are we going to be, do we need to coordinate with the neighbor and get them to agree to something so that we can get a site plan approval? Or will you be able to approve this site plan without their agreement because they're suing the village, right?
I think what, correct me if I'm wrong, what the board has done in the past is allowed for an area to be shown on the site plan for future cross-access pending a site plan.
Correct, and I know the town does that.
Yeah.
I've seen that on one occasion. We could definitely do that, or we could choose to be satisfied if the plan otherwise meets all of our site plan criteria, meets parking, meets adequate ingress egress. We don't necessarily have to demand a cross-access easement. If all parking, traffic access.
So let's do what Alex said. Let's show it for now. I think I want to check in with the trustees on this to see exactly what's happening. We need to get smarter on the status of this lawsuit.
Question is
So,
where you show it.
beg
I
your
don't have
pardon?
any problem with you moving this thing as long as quickly as possible, but the question is where you show it. You said put it one place here, one place there. Cross-access only works if it's like this.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is you've got to keep that stuff in mind.
We will.
That's all.
Yeah, but why don't we
And
leave
read
it?
up on this.
In terms of the criteria, you've already made a determination, your predecessor board, that you want it.
Exactly.
So I'm scratching my head when somebody's saying,
What I suggest is for now, if you can agree preliminary where you want it, but if not, we can show our area, the general area where future cross-access will be.
Alex, the area has to work with the adjoining lot, doesn't it?
But I'm not saying a specific area, I'm saying a
Well,
general area.
What do you mean it not? It's either has to work with the adjoining lot or it doesn't. This isn't cross-access.
I would show it as the existing access that is there now, and then possibly to be moved based on a future decision.
Let me get GIS.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, let's do that.
We
And
work together.
If this
Right.
evolves between now and the 1st of July, then someone will be in touch with you and we'll amend it before that meeting, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to dispense with the minutes approval. We'll kick that to the next meeting. And the only thing left on the agenda is 54 Main, which I'm going to recuse myself and turn the gavel over to Alan, who will do this. And Liz, sorry for having you wait so long, but appreciate your patience.
Thank you. Here are some amended maps for the board. Is this the one that has to show? I just want to make sure.
Facing the board, yeah.
Okay, good evening, board members. I'm Liz Vale. I'm with Greenberg Traurig at 2317 Montauk Highway in Bridgehampton. And this is my third time before the board. This is a continued public hearing from the last time I was here. We took the comments from the board last time and amended our plan to show a proposed flag with a dedicated flag access, which is what the majority of feedback was from the board. So now we have, again, this is a 2-lot subdivision at 54 North Main Street. Proposed lot 1 is in the rear. This area is zoned R 7.5, which requires 7,500 square foot per lot. And we're proposing a 34,960 square foot lot. Proposed lot 2 is in the front with the improved office building. And that lot is proposed at 32,740 square feet. This area is zoned R20, so we have a split zone property. We have a pre-existing non-conforming wood shop in the back. We are proposing to make this residential, this use, which is a conforming use. It would be eliminating the pre-existing non-conforming wood shop in the back and, again, substituting the conforming residential use. So the last time we were here, the chairman had said that the board prefers dedicated deeded access for a flag, which is what you now have before you. This is the same plan that was approved in September of 2020. You issued a negative declaration on this. So we're here seeking approval of this sketch plan from you tonight. We have neighbors' letters in support. We also have a neighbor who was patient enough to wait tonight, Ms. Van Allen, and also Mr. Bennett, who's a neighboring property owner as well, who are here to speak on behalf of the applicant in support of the application. So I'll speak again after they go. Thank you.
Okay.
If I may, my name is John Bennett. I own 60 Hildreth Street and I own 61 Jennings Avenue, both of which properties that were noticed for the public hearing. It's been...
You're in the back, you're in the back to the east.
Excuse me?
You're in the back.
To the east and to the southeast. Yeah, but they just barely meet the 200 feet requirement. I've watched this whole application with, and I'm fully in support. I've watched this whole application with, to say bemusement would be a difficulty, and I think any way you can move this along would be only fair and equitable. The applicant is extinguishing a pre-existing non-conforming light industrial use, trade contractor, proposing 1 single-family residence where the zoning would give them 4. So you have the elimination of non-conforming uses and a reduced density subdivision. To be honest with you, I've been a land use lawyer and planning lawyer and a former planning board lawyer for, I guess, a total of 42 years. If anyone can tell me the functional distinction between fee ownership and an easement for fee, I'll be a monkey's uncle, because there just ain't none. But if that's what the board wants to do and send it back to the Zoning Board of Appeals, where the Zoning Board of Appeals already told them they wanted it by easement, this is the sort of stuff that people scratch their head. Bill Coral is a great citizen, always has been. Every single thing that Billy Coral does, and I've been happy to know him for 55 years, he does it in a class way. He rebuilt the house just to the north of this site in a beautiful way. I'm sure he's frustrated. This is the sort of thing that should be encouraged, not put through unnecessary delay. And so I would, anything that you can do to move this application along, I think it would be only fair. I would say, I would go so far that a refusal of this application would be misfeasance, if not malfeasance. This is an application where it is doing everything that the code tells you to do, reducing nonconforming uses, reducing density. That driveway back to the back, what will be the back parcel, has been there forever. It's been there when Billy's grandfather had the property, when Billy's dad, Ed Curl, had the property, and his uncle. And there's not going to be any change in the access point. That would have absolutely no effect on surrounding properties. That's been the access point to the back for probably 60, 70, 80 years. So I'd ask you to do anything that you can to help Mr. Coral, who's a fine citizen and always does the right thing along. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
My name is Sarah Van Allen. I live at 49 North Main Street, which is directly across from this driveway. My sofa sits maybe 75 feet from the driveway. I have never had any problem with the driveway. I'd like to also remind this group that that is in one of the most historic districts of the village. There were whaling captains that lived surrounding that property. My house housed the first lending library in the village of Southampton. It was known as the North End. It's the original part of the settlement, and the applicant is offering to return part of that property back to a residential area. I've not spoken to any of my neighbors that feel that this isn't just an unbelievable gift of the applicant to change it from the non-conforming use back to residential use. So I completely support this, as do every neighbor that I've spoken to, which include a few that had to leave, but that I know that we're here to support it. Flag lot issues. I'm not a scientist. I don't know. I went to Google Maps. I counted 17 flag lots along First Neck Lane, I counted 2 on North Main Street. I don't cross the highway. I just stick to the old North End. So to object to it as a flag lot, ironically, one of those flag lots is exactly parallel to this particular driveway that has been there for we're talking over 50 years. So that I just hope that the board realizes in planning for the future of the village that we maintain this historic district, and the applicant is making every effort to return it that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I did just want to note that I checked the files today. The fire marshal did approve of this plan. He has a stamped approved plan. It's in the ZBA file if you want to get it. So we can certainly update this to show his changes on the access. But he did say the access was safe and adequate for the residential lot in the back because that was raised at the last meeting. And then additionally, since this is a flag and a dedicated flag, which is what you wanted, we did submit last time all of the flag lots that are in Southampton Village. We submitted a statement in support with a list of prior subdivisions approved by this board with flag lots. We showed how we met the flag lot law. So I'm hoping we can get this sketch plan approved so we can move forward with ZBA as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would like to hear some feedback from the board to just get a good sense of how you feel about the plan.
I can only tell you that I was involved with the approval of over 4 years ago. Everyone thought it would be done by now.
Mm-hmm.
You've had a lot of holdups, and you have a valiant lawyer dealing with the plumbing and everything else. Everybody wants the house back there. It's unanimous. The planning board wanted it before, no problem. This area has been known for a long time with that wood shop. I knew it as a wood shop. Building things, I was the customer. Mr. Wild, all sorts of people. He's before Carl. This was the area of disputes over animals with the former mayor. This is involved with the founding, a lot of stuff going on in the neighborhood. People have come to the building department to say, it's fantastic. Get the Carls to build 2 houses, all sorts of issues. It focuses a lot of attention on that neighborhood. The only issue that we have is, partly because of the plan that was just delivered 12 years later. And if you've gotten it from an easement to a flag lot, that was our objection last time you came. We just said, we may love the zoning board, but we really feel a larger duty wherever we can to, but not to just have easements, but to have flag lots where ownership of that flag is in the entity moving forward, and it takes a whole realm of possible future disputes over property owners in a dense village. It's in between the property owners, not involving the trustee and these boards. But if this now changed, even with 15 feet, and with this,
It's 18 feet at its most narrow width, 25 feet at the front,
yeah,
at the frontage.
it's the building was enlarged by the Carls about, I'm going to say, 40 years ago. They enlarged the building to go nearer to the fence, and so it's pretty close.
Mhm.
And there's parking in the back. There's admission into the back too. The only issue is that if we worked out with the new property, thank goodness the house is going on for access back there.
So now this is the
including
flag.
parking behind and the front. That's fine.
Okay.
That's the property owner's problem.
Mhm.
But that's my personal view.
Okay, great.
And I've studied, as some people in this room know, flag lots versus easements for decades. I've measured about 30 of them.
I hope you come to ZBA with me.
Listen, hey, I'd love to deal with the ZBA.
Great.
I'll be your assistant.
Can I add one thing as a neighbor also that wants to see this happen? I think it's appropriate for you to send a resolution to the zoning board of appeals.
Yeah.
Letting them know.
The
that
memo
you want-
didn't work last
That
time.
you want the flag, because to say that they were obstreperous, and didn't care what you said.
This is
would
not
be
the time to
minimized.
give me personal views.
Excuse me?
It's not the time or the occasion for me to give you personal views about the zoning board.
No.
But I agree with you.
Yes, we had a memo last time, and it was not sufficient to persuade them. So I would ask that the board, that's a great idea, John, that the board would consider a resolution in favor of granting variances for the flag versus the easement. I would like to hear from the other board members as well.
I think that you've made a very strong case. I find the letters very persuasive, and I think that we're probably ready to vote. And I'd like to know who would write that letter that will go to the zoning and finally put this to rest. Would that be you, Tom?
If you so authorize me, correct.
Shall we vote?
I recommend, because of stuff that may not, I haven't read it. There are changes afoot in the administration of a number of boards in the village, and I think the letter is just fine. Probably needs to go after July 1st. I couldn't agree with you more. There is supposed to be, after years of effort, conversations on a regular basis by the heads, which very properly he's had to recuse himself, of heads of boards, zoning and ARB and planning and everything. They meet, I think, weekly, pretty often, to discuss cases and discuss administration. And it's been a moving target for council, to the trustees. The council have been changing in the last 5 years constantly, but there's a focus on trying to keep it organized. But a letter would be just fine as far as I'm concerned. I think it just needs to go after July 1st.
Well, we would at least seek your approval this evening.
So Kathy,
Okay.
Alex, what was our next step then here? With Mark having stepped out? Shall we
So
just-
it's to close the public hearing and to, I guess, do a straw poll to vote for a written decision. But I think you could vote. I mean, it's really authorizing the same thing that was authorized back in 2021.
September.
So we'll do a motion.
And just to give the board clarity, I know we spoke about it earlier in the meeting, but the idea of a sketch plan is general layout.
And it wouldn't necessarily be a vote, you'd be directing council to prepare a written decision that you would vote on at the next meeting or whenever such.
So you can do two separate resolutions if you'd so like. One directing me to do the resolution, and another directing me, if you so choose, to write a draft resolution to be directed to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
I realize that's unusual, but I think in light of the history of this case,
It's
a
very
good idea.
unique. Yeah, thank you.
As long as you accept the timing of number 2. I think we can accept the motion. Somebody can second it, and we'll have all of the 4 of us.
Alan, would you like to propose the motion?
I'll propose that we approve this plan of the development of the lot behind with a flag lot as outlined by council.
Second,
Seconded.
all in favor?
Okay, for it. And then I will instruct council to, with proper deliberation, approximately July 1, be able to deliver a complaint to the zoning board.
Resolution, you mean?
A resolution from this board to help them focus better in line with what we think is the right duties that we assume. Thank you.
Thank you, board members.
What was the vote on the
Oh, yeah,
second
sorry.
prong?
Well, I don't think you need a vote.
Let's just do a
All in
vote,
favor?
please.
Okay, he's out of the room. We'll do a vote, okay. I propose the vote of the letter.
Yes,
Second.
second. Second.
Thank you.
You'll provide a digital copy of the plan you submitted to
Yes.
the building department?
Yes. I want to make sure we do the one that has the fire marshal approval.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, board members.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your patience.
Should we grab the chair?
Yes, you want to go grab it?
He just went out for this particular issue. He had a conflict.
Yeah. Oh, I thought he left
Because it was what?
because it was now at the end of the meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, oh, sorry, I'm gonna, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night. Good night. Good night, everyone. Thank you. Thanks.
I was going to ask Mark, with respect to the April 15th minutes, we never approved them, but they're ready,
Oh, okay.
aren't they? Yeah, they've been published. Yeah. Yeah, so April 15th was never approved, the minutes of that meeting, or it may,
I don't see.
June
It may-
6th.
I've checked my
She
junk
said,
mail and it
"Are those the ones you're
15th,
talking
the
about?"
last
It
two
hadn't been
I
because I
haven't
had
gotten, I don't
revisions
think
that
Mark's
were
gotten.
incorrect. So that was a long time
I've
ago.
definitely sent them
April
out to the
15th.
board, I can resend.
Could you please?
Absolutely, for the May 6th, or for both of them.
Both.
Oh, that was a long time
Oh,
ago.
okay.
That was like
I think
Yeah.
Mark had the same complaint as me.
For
some reason,
I got it.
Yeah, that's what I,
He's
that's what I
got
just
it.
wanted, and I think there's another
He's got a
one
better
too.
email. I just,
I haven't, I
That
don't know
was
if I
the
saw
same
the other
email
one.
where I asked for William's email.
Right.
They were in that same email.
So let's revisit that. So the April 15th minutes, motion to approve those.
April 15th, I saw
Aye.
those.
Yeah, everybody's seen those. So second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. What's the next?
The May 6th ones I did send you, that was the one where I did ask for William Dye's email on that. So you guys did get them. If you didn't see that attached, I can resend them.
And is there one after that, May 6th?
No.
Okay, so the May 6th one, I haven't reviewed. You haven't reviewed. Have you
I will
reviewed it?
resend them to you.
So May 6th we'll get next
Okay.
meeting. Okay?
Sure.
Motion to,
We made a motion.
to adjourn?
Approve this with a flag lot. But
You can't tell, I don't want to know.
We got the motion, you'll be in the minutes. We're gonna get the council to send on or after July 1, a letter to the zoning board of this board complaining about the actions they've taken with respect to this.
I didn't say complaining, just
Yeah,
instruct, we're not gonna
it's
complain
gonna
about
be
that,
a
we're just gonna, a
recommendation.
recommendation, or actually an explanation that we've seen it and now we've,
And so just to
Just
confirm, the
because
next
of the
meetings
history,
are
she
gonna be
needs
Monday,
it.
June 17th and Monday, July 1st, just so we can ensure that we have a quorum.
what,
Yeah.
excuse me, what dates?
It's gonna be Monday, June 17th and Monday, July 1st.
June 17th, yes, and July 1st.
Okay?
Got it.
Motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor? We need a third hand here. There we go.
Thank you,
Motion carries.
Deborah. Deborah came
Thanks,
in.
everyone.